welcome to First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. My name is Lindsey Jackson.
And I'm Aaron Jackson.
And I'm so excited. We have the honor and privilege to be joined today by none other than my sister, Michal Joanna Jackson Terrell. Did I say it right?
Yes.
In all her titles and all her names. And she's joining us today as the professional licensed marriage and family therapist. So she's going to share some good stuff, some really good things about therapy that I'm really excited because this is a topic that people have been talking about like for the past, 2 years now?
Yeah, 3 years, pandemic.
Pandemic?
Yeah.
It's been pandemic for 3 years?
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
Okay, well, therapy is still a hot topic and it's something new for me still. So, hi, Michal.
Hi, guys.
Thanks
for having me on your podcast, finally.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. So, okay, I shared your title, but did I miss anything?
No, you got it. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've seen couples, I've seen families, I've seen children's and adults.
Okay, so
what question?
The first question I was going to ask you though is there a difference between
No, I want to stop you there.
Okay, tell me. Go for
it. First question I want to ask you is tell us your love story.
Okay.
My love story. I feel like I can't tell my love story about myself. Okay, like this is how my love story.
I actually took that question off for you because of your professional title, and I feel like they don't cross that boundary. But if you
I want to hear about our love story because this is how I feel about therapy. If I am seeing a therapist, and we can talk about this later, and I'm seeing a marriage therapist and they're not married, I'm thinking in my head, you cannot relate. Right. Just like if I'm seeing somebody for trauma and I don't feel like they've had trauma in their life and their life is just peachy keen, then I'm like, I'm gonna find another therapist who I feel has more relatable attributes. Yeah. So we are a podcast about love, about relationships. So I want to know her love story.
Okay. I mean, we can start there. We're gonna talk about this later because I have more to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, you brought up a good point, and I do have some more to say about that, finding the right therapist and everything. But I'll tell you about my love story. So my husband, we've been married for 6 years, going on 7. This year will be the 7th year. And I know that because I got married when I was 30, and I turned 37 this year. So boom, that's how I always remember. Unless I forget how old I am, then just go. But yeah, so we've actually known each other for a while. He's always been in the background of my story. That's what I like to say. He said I'm in the background of his. But we met at church, and he was actually friends with one of my older sisters first, and then he became best friends with my little brother.
This guy.
That guy.
That's why you wanted to hear the story.
Yeah, and then during you guys' wedding, we had a chance to kind of reconnect. I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's looking kind of good right now. And so after the wedding, I told you guys like, hey, I'm interested in Gary. And you said,
no, you're not.
Exactly. Point blank period. No, you're not. I'm like, okay, cool. So then we kind of started hanging out a little bit. Me and my other friends, we went to the Made in America tour, and we were coming in. Now, mind you, Made in America was big. It was at Grand Park in downtown LA. And so there were like 5 different entrances and exits. And so we so happened to be coming in while Gary was walking out. And so we crossed paths. We're like, hey, let's hang out afterwards. He was like, cool. So afterwards, we went and scooped him. We went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. And after that, we just hung out like the whole night. And it was like, I don't know. It was like, this is right.
Wow.
This is really right. And so I prayed about it. Like, Lord, I'm not doing this if this isn't official, if this isn't forever. Like, I'm not even gonna go there. So I prayed about it, and then we started dating, and yeah,
And
that's
that's
how.
it. That's the love story. You just wanted to hear the love story because you wanted your own special shout out,
And,
which
well, I got
you
so much.
told.
I have so much input into that love story that is fine. But Gary's a really great guy, and the Michael is one of the couples. I know we said it in a couple of podcasts like 2 seasons ago of our marriage tree. We have like a
Yes.
marriage tree.
Yes.
Michael and Gary is in our marriage tree, but so it's nice because we love. And now we could talk about, since I know that she has love, and since I know that she has a husband that she's loved, she's in a happy marriage.
Right.
Now let's get to the therapy.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing, because I honestly don't feel like in the 2 or 3 therapists that I have seen that I know anything about their life. And I don't know if that's something that you share with all of your clients. Do you share this?
It really depends. So we have this thing called disclosure, and the disclosure is really up to the therapist how much they share. But the rule of law is you don't share anything that wouldn't benefit the client, right? So you wouldn't share your experience just to be like, oh, I'm hurt too. It would be more like, if I can tell you something that would make you feel a little bit more comfortable, would benefits you in some way, then I'm open to sharing. But if it wouldn't, then you just kind of leave it at the door because it's irrelevant. Then you're just doing it for yourself. And that's not what therapy is about. So
Okay, I can see that. So in a case where maybe your client is thinking about leaving or quitting, unless they hear, like, I really need to align with you. I really need to understand if you're in this experience with me or have ever been, you might feel inclined to share something about yourself.
yeah, you might feel inclined to share, and you don't share just because the client asks. Just because they ask doesn't mean you have to share.
Okay, already coming in with the words. Got it. Okay. Okay, so back to my original question. What's the difference between therapy and psychiatry? Is there a difference, like if somebody's seeking a psychiatrist or somebody's seeking a therapist?
There's a difference. So a psychiatrist is actually a MD. They're a medical doctor who specialize in mental health. So if you're seeking a psychiatrist, more than likely you're getting prescribed medication. Psychiatrists, at least in the state of California where I am, psychiatrists can prescribe medication, therapists cannot. So if you're seeing a psychiatrist, it's mostly for, they'll find out, like, what's going on with you, talk about the symptoms that you're experiencing, and then talk about how you can relieve those symptoms using medication. But they also do provide talk therapy as well, but it's mostly like medication management. And so a therapist is somebody that you would go to do talk therapy and talk about things that are affecting you in your life. And this is beyond the symptoms. This is more deeper into like the actual cause of the things that's going on.
Okay. So this is a relationship podcast. We talk mostly about relationships, and we're diving into like marriage therapy. What do you think? And this is purely like you as Michael, beneficial. Is it beneficial to seek therapy before issues arise in marriage? Or is it like, you know what, come when you need it? Because technically I think you shouldn't be in therapy always, right? Or you tell me.
Well, I think that if premarital counseling, even before you even get married, is like clutch. Like that is so important. And that's me personally having gone through it, because you learn so much that you wouldn't even think to ask or find out about your partner, or even talk about scenarios that you don't know, because you have these two different people that had two different lives and now they're combining into one. And so there's some stuff that you just assume, like, this is what we done it in my house, so I'm assuming that that's the way you do it in your house. So it's always, to me, it's always beneficial to seek therapy before you feel like you need it, especially to get those skills, because when you're in it, it's harder to use those skills because you don't think about it. You just think about what's going on with you, the stressors and everything like that. And it becomes overwhelming. And then trying to think and go back to like okay, well, let me find a therapist. Like, and that's not easy either. So
Right.
I think that yeah, we can talk about that, but I think it is more beneficial to try to keep something regular. And you don't have to meet with them every week if there's nothing going on. It could be like once a month, every 2 weeks, something like that.
Okay. Did you have something?
No.
Okay. So here's the thing though. You're seeing a therapist once a month.
You're seeing a therapist.
We're seeing a therapist.
Okay.
A married couple is seeing a therapist once a month, once every 2 weeks. What is the purpose of that? What is the maintenance process of that? Because I'm thinking, and this is just me, you're seeing a therapist to get something resolved, right? Or no? What
You're trying to say what is the purpose?
What is the purpose of seeing a therapist if there's not really an issue? And then if there is an issue and it is resolved, is your therapy resolved? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, what's the point of going if I don't have anything to go for, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about that is you think you don't have anything to go for until you get in that room, right? There's a lot of stuff that, and I know a lot of marriage counselors and therapists, excuse me, they do assessments with couples. So in the beginning, they'll give you this assessment and it's questions, and people use different forms, but there's questions and they'll ask you like, how do you feel about this? How do you guys resolve conflicts? Da, da, da. And they'll ask you each individually and then compare results, right? And so one person's perception of the marriage can be totally different than the other person's. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but being able to get in a room with somebody else who is trained to navigate this will help you be able to see things that aren't even on your radar, things that might be like slightly bothering you, but you've learned to live with it and just go about your day, that can start to build up and down the line cause more stress.
But doesn't that just bring up issues that are not there, or are the issues already there? That's what you're saying. Because to me, is therapy just bringing up things that technically you've learned to deal with? And now you're like, oh, you're right. I don't have to deal with that anymore. But now you have an issue when you didn't have one before. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Right. Excuse me. But I would challenge that and say that if it wasn't an issue at all, then it wouldn't come up, Like if you go into therapy, you do these assessments and everything is fine. It's like, great, okay. So, let's work on maybe communication. Let's work on different skills. But if there's something that comes up that and learn, when we say learn to deal with, this is more like you've learned to walk with a limp, right? Not that your leg is healed, like something might happen to you, not like the leg is healed and it's fine. You just learned and your body has adjusted to this new type of strain, right?
Working in dysfunction, like functioning in the dysfunction, basically.
And so if you get to it and you're like, well, this isn't an issue for us, we've resolved it, but it's still something that's painful, something that's sensitive, something that you guys don't bring up because it causes conflict, then it's something to work on.
I was just talking in the other podcast about we were on with a dating expert, and we were talking about dating somebody and dealing with your own trauma before you go out to date. And back in the day, it wasn't like that. It was kind of like people just brought their baggage and they just figured it out. But now people are trying to deal with their own stuff. And something that you just mentioned that I thought was a really pertinent thing is being able to bring stuff up. One of the things that it was an issue back in the day, I think like from like year 1 to 4, it was the issue of you cooking. Like it made me so mad that I did not talk about it. And now I can talk about it. Or when Jack passed, for the first 2 years, I didn't talk to people about it. Now I could just say his name and it's not that I'm fully, like I always say with Jack, it's not that I'm fully healed or fully over my son passing, but I am healed. I can talk about it. I can learn from. I can find the lessons that are in it. And so if you are, if someone's in a relationship and they do have something like that, even in marriage, that they can't talk about openly, is that a sign that there's an issue that they haven't taken care of? Or for you, how do you get that out as a therapist? How do you get that out because they don't want to talk about it?
Mm-hmm. One thing I like to remind people is like when they come into a therapy room, like this is your time and this is your space. So the things that you bring, the things that you talk about, it's kind of it's navigated by you. So there's sometimes where people do need like a little push and encouragement, where it's like a gentle guidance, like I know that this is something that might be difficult, and you might think that you're putting it away and not dealing with it, but it's coming out in other areas of your life, which is causing you distress. And so if you're at a point where you feel ready to dive into this stuff, then we can talk about it. But also as a therapist, you start giving them tools to be able to handle this, like different type of techniques like grounding. Grounding is a technique where you remind yourself that you're here in the present. Because a lot of times when people go and talk about things that have hurt them, their trauma, they literally, their mind goes back in their past. Their body feels what they felt. And so reminding somebody that they're here in the present with you is a way to help them to be able to deal with it and talk about it without feeling, you might feel the emotions, but you won't feel like you're back there, if that makes sense. And then also sometimes, especially if it's couples therapy or family therapy, a therapist will suggest that an individual get their own therapist, because there could be stuff that they need to work on within themselves that is hindering the process. Because when a family comes in or a married couple comes in, the therapist's client becomes the family, or the client becomes the couple. And so everything that happens, all the treatment, the goals are directed towards this unit. And if it's something that the person needs individually, then they would need to seek their own therapist for it.
In couples therapy, you just brought up a point. In the therapy that I've had, I usually never get a right or wrong sort of thing. Like, I mean, this might go toward the question of what's the difference between like coaching and therapy. But when I'm talking to a therapist, at the end of it, I'm always like, maybe, what should I do? Or was this right? Or, like, what is it? And the couple of times that I've had them, I haven't had many, they've never come out and told me exactly what it is. And so like, even when there's couples, if I sat down with Aaron and we talking to somebody, I want them to say, you was right, Lindsey. I want them to say it, or even
like, welcome to the Am I Wrong section.
I want them to say it. And I feel like I would be a little upset if I went to a therapist and we just sat there and talked about our feelings or whatever, and we didn't come out with, like, that's the purpose. It's almost like a mediator. So do you like tell the couple, like, actually, Lindsey was, I'm gonna keep saying it, Lindsey was right about
this. You can tell that Lindsey's ready for war, right? She is ready. She's like, I'm coming to therapy, ready to fight.
And we haven't, but I'm just trying to get a feel of like what is usually done. Like, do you take sides, or like what? Like, I know it's for the family, but somebody got to be right. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it?
But well, that's like the difference between a mediator, a therapist, and a coach. So a therapist, their side is the side of the couple. There's not individual. So a therapist would not go in and say, okay, Lindsey, girl, you right. Aaron, you tripping. But because if they do that, now they're joining with you. And so now the client is no longer the couple. Now it's Lindsey. And what is that going to do to Aaron?
But if we have
you're forming another,
you're forming an alliance. This is very much like TV, because I've seen many shows where they go in and it's like even on Martin.
Yeah, it's like it was, but that's like for jokes and everything.
It is, but here's the okay. We come in with a specific issue. Let's say one. He's addicted to pornography. I don't know why I went there. But okay, and it's like doing something in the bedroom. Okay, so the issue is that, and how would, to me, I'm not saying he's wrong or he's, you know what I mean, but you're still focusing on the family, but clearly someone's behavior might necessarily need to change. And so you would help them with that, right? Or what would you do?
Right. With that, it's like there's two people in a marriage, right? And
Hmm.
so there's always okay, this person is predicted to pornography and it's playing out in the bedroom where we're not connecting, right? And so then it becomes a part of, okay, so I see there's a communication issues, but there's also some stuff that the person who's addicted to pornography needs to work out in individual therapy, right? Because
Mm.
that's an individual, I mean, it's affecting the couple, but that right there, like the source of the why is more of an individual therapy matter. But like the way that it's affecting the marriage and the sex in the marriage is what you would talk about. And so it'll be like, well, Lindsey, can you tell Aaron how this is affecting you? And then you would say something like, well, I feel, these are I statements, I feel when you, right? Stuff
Mhm.
like that. And then Aaron, it's like, Aaron, how do you feel hearing your wife say this to you, right? What effect is this having on you? And if it's really an addiction, right? Because addiction is something serious, it's another mental health issue. So that is something that Aaron would have to work out on himself because addiction probably started way before the marriage.
Right. We just talked about that.
So, my question is, when you have a couple or you have a family, and your side is the unit, right? You are the champion for the unit. How do you as a therapist get through the person who is reluctant to therapy? So say one of like a Hollywood trope is when a guy and a girl go to couples therapy and the guy doesn't want to go there, or somebody's like therapy is just talking about your feelings. There's no solutions. This is pointless. We're wasting our time. How does a therapist, how would you as a therapist break that? Because two-part question, is it really like you get in what you put out, right? Or can somebody say therapy isn't for me and be right about it because they're stuck in the mindset of therapy isn't for me?
Yes, and so um it happens so often, especially in family therapy, because with family therapy and especially when I'm working with children, the parents feel like the problem is the child. The child is the problem, right? And so it's almost like, well, why are we here? They have stuff going on, right? And so they're more reluctant to get in the room and talk about things. But it's also like if you have people who actually genuinely love each other, then as a therapist, you highlighting that somebody that you love is hurting, right? It changes the narrative. So now it's no longer something's wrong with them. It's somebody I care about is hurting. What can I do to help? Right. And
Mm.
so working on that, talking about that. So even if it's like, my husband is addicted to pornography, right? That's the thing. My husband's not having sex with me. That's the thing. It becomes somebody I love is hurting. Somebody I love is struggling. Somebody I love this, and that. And once you remind people of this love that they share, this caring for the other person, it makes it easier for them to talk and to relate and to want to engage in this, knowing that it's helping that somebody that they love. The other part, therapy is I would say 85% about what you put in, what you get out, because therapy is for you. Like I consider myself to be knowledgeable in the field of mental health, but I'm not the expert on anybody's life. So when a client comes in the room, they're the expert on their lives. And so if they're not willing to put in the work, then we will be going in circles. So
Mhm.
I can talk till I'm blue in the face. They could talk till they're blue in the face. But if they leave here and don't do anything to adjust their life, they're going to be in the same place that they were. And if they come, like, if they keep coming with the same things over and over, I'll point it out, like, hey, we're doing this dance and it doesn't seem like anything's changing. Like, what's going on? Because it's like, I don't want to waste somebody else's time.
Mm. Hey, are you enjoying the episode? Go ahead and pause it right now, take out your phone, and join the conversation.
We want you to be a part of the show. You can call the voicemail at 412-LOVE-POD. That's 412-568-3763.
Looking forward to hearing from you.
So, man, I would like to say I'm very impressed. This is amazing. I'm about to go over to the part of choosing a therapist, and when to choose a therapist. And then this is a 2-part question for you as a therapist. So my first question is, do you think, like, kind of like Lindsay's is questions in the beginning, is like, do you just start off, everybody needs therapy, or when's the right time to get into therapy? That was my first question. When's the right time to get in? Secondly is choosing the therapist. How do I choose a therapist? How am I comfortable with a therapist? Because sometimes, like, I feel like I'm a people pleaser, and if I start with somebody, I'm like, we're gonna ride it out, even if I gotta stay, even if I'm not comfortable, right? It's kind of like, okay,
like, why you quit?
Why not quit? I'm not a quitter. And thirdly, if you have a client or you have a couple or a family, and you give tools, you give exercises. Hey, every week I want you to write down something positive or something like that. And they continuously don't do it. They ignore the exercises that you give. Do you, as a therapist, drop them? You say it's not a right fit for you. So that was my
Okay.
Sorry, I hit you back to back to back.
I'll start with the last one. And so that in the therapeutic world we call resistance, right? And so I would start exploring, like, what is it that's stopping you from doing this during the week? Because it could be that I move too fast and they're not ready for that. Might need to go back and figure out, like, what's going on in your daily life that's stopping you from doing the things you said you wanted to do when you came into therapy. Start there. Go back to choosing a therapist. Choosing a therapist to me it's like dating. Like, you have to try different therapists to see what fits. Like, and I think a lot of people are turned off by therapy because they've seen a therapist who wasn't a good fit. And now it's like, oh no, I don't do therapy. The therapists are all the same. They're this, they're that. But it's really about finding one that works for you. And me, from personal experience, finding a therapist, I know that it's hard because I've had multiple therapists that did not click with me. And I tried to write it out, like, okay, let me write this out. And it was just like, it was worse. Like, it was like, I'm not healing, I'm not getting anything from this. I'm really wasting my time and my money. And I haven't met a therapist who told me that this isn't the right fit. But me, as a therapist, I have told people that, maybe you need something different. Because I'll say, like, this is the type of therapist I am. Like, I may be more direct, I only give homework when needed. I'm not a homework therapist. So if you're looking for things that I'm not, you might want to see somebody else, because this might not work out the way that you see it working out. Going back, when is the right time to seek therapy or find a therapist? I can't answer that.
Okay.
That's like it's really a personal thing. A lot of people seek therapists when they are in a crisis, or maybe when somebody else has pointed out, like, hey, maybe you should talk to somebody about this, and it's usually after the fact of something happening. I have not met a lot of people who just go to see a therapist because they feel like it would be helpful or beneficial without there being some type of event that prompted it.
So his question of, is therapy for everyone? What would you say?
I would say yes. I would say yes, therapy is for everyone, but you still have to find the right fit, the right type of therapist. And there's so many different types of therapists out there that I feel like it would be beneficial.
And like there's different when you were talking about finding a different therapist, I was thinking about a masseuse, because there's so many different massages out there, so many different masseuses, and
Yeah.
I don't like a certain massage. I thought when we went to Thailand and I got the Thai massage, and I was like, this is painful. Like,
You do not, and you was
yeah,
like, I'm not getting no more massages. You tried 3 different ones, and you was
yeah,
like, no,
yeah.
no more. But you,
And then sometimes when I went to a spa, it's
yes,
basically just an oil back rub,
yes,
and I go to sleep, and I like that. But I have to find that, or like finding if I want a male or a female.
right,
So that's an interesting thing to me, because it, like massages, you do have to pay that copay, or you do have to pay that money, and so I feel like people are like, oh, I spent money on this, it should have worked. It doesn't work. I'm off it completely, because I know people who don't like. I was one of those people. I was like, I don't like massages. Do not touch me.
right.
So I find that interesting. It's kind of like putting in the work to get the results you want.
Mhm.
Is a issue. Do you find that people sometimes go, because we have 2 kids? You're one of our kids' godmothers. Do you find it that some adults, because right now I'm with the boys a lot, and so the only conversations I really have with an adult might be with Lindsey for 2 days, right? Do you feel like some people go to therapy just to have a friend? Or is that a bad reason to go to therapy? You know what I mean?
Uh,
To talk to somebody.
to talk to somebody. I don't think that's a bad reason to go to therapy. I do think it is if you're looking for a friend, because your therapist shouldn't be your friend, because once you get in friendships, it's crossing boundaries. But um I feel like therapy is probably like one of the very rare honest conversations that you can have with another person who doesn't hold any type of kind of sway or judgment on what you say. So you can come in the room and you can just word vomit, right? You can spill your guts and know that you're leaving that in the room. Like it's not going anywhere else. You might have close friends who you talk to, but still, like there's still stuff that you might not say in front of them because, you know, it could get out, or because they're going to give you their opinion on what you should do, right? And that, I think that goes back to what you were saying, Lindsey, about a therapist walking out of therapy without having advice, right?
Right.
um if a therapist is giving you advice, you might want to find a different therapist, because a therapist is really supposed to kind of guide you into figuring out your own answers, because when you figure out the answers for yourself, then they're more authentic, right? Instead of you just listening to somebody else tell you what to do. And that's the difference between a therapist and a coach.
Right.
So a coach is somebody who will guide you. They'll give you advice. They'll give you skills. And with coaching, you go in there with like something specific, like, I'm tired of my job. I want to change. What should I do? Or, you know, I have I can't stop walking by my ex's house,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
very targeted problems, and they'll give you skills and advice. And it's like, okay, cool. You have these problems. Let me give you the solution, and off you go.
Let me tell you, that was a light bulb moment when she said that.
Really?
Yeah, a difference between a coach and a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good, because I used to coach basketball, and that's what coaches do. Coaches tell you, this is what you do to get here. This is what I want you to do to get here.
And therapists will not tell you. And I think that that's mainly, I guess, if I'm being really honest, I think that's my issue, is because it's like, if I am coming weekly to talk to somebody and their goal is for me to figure it out, well, how long is that going to take? You know, this is especially if I'm like, if you know the answer, I'm going to go back to it's simple words like the answer or the way to get around it or get to it. It's like, why are we wasting my time and copay when it could be 6 months of you trying to get me to figure it out and do homework, like you say, because now I'm like, maybe this is where I'm like, I don't want to do homework. I'm not about to sit there and say things 3 times in the morning so that I can figure out what you could maybe have told me. And I think that that's maybe my issue. And I wonder if that's something that you could present to your therapist, and then they would say, I could help you differently, or actually, I probably won't be able to help you because I'm not going to do that. Like,
probably both and. So there are some therapists that do coaching, but it is separate because they're two different fields. So you can go to like a licensed therapist and say, I'm looking for coaching. And if they do coaching, then your sessions will be focused on coaching. But I have had clients that have come to me and like, hey, I'm looking for advice. I'm seeking this. And I say, I am not the right therapist for you. I do not give advice, because me giving advice means I'm assuming I know what's best for you. And how am I going to assume I know what's best for you when I'm just getting to know you, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, you're the expert in your life. So that means my assumption is based off of other people, not you specifically.
right.
And so how often has somebody told you, Lindsey, do this, and you've done it, and you're like, okay, cool. How often do people tell you what to do, Lindsey?
Well, I don't listen to people unless I ask them specifically. But yeah, I mean, everybody's going to try to give their opinion about something.
A lot of people try to give advice.
They do.
Right.
World.
And so you might try the advice and be like, okay, that doesn't work for me. Or it might. But that's the same thing. Like a therapist will say, hey, try to do this, right? And it's not advice on your life. It's maybe advice on like, I'm having trouble sleeping, right? Hey, along with us talking about the things that are going on in your life that might be stopping you from sleeping, it's also going to be, you can try progressive muscle relaxation, where you lie in bed, you tense your muscles up, you let them go, you do some breathing, right? Actual skills. So it's actual things that you can do to help alleviate the symptoms, right? But it's also getting into the reasons behind why you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Because that'll last longer. Once you figure out why you're not sleeping and solve that, that'll last longer than you doing this thing every night to try to make yourself go to sleep.
And you don't know why. Yeah, I like that. Do you ever graduate from therapy? Like, is it something that concludes and say like, thank you, go about I'm serious because I don't, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if this is something, I mean, one, I'm like, goes back to, is therapy for everybody? And then two, it's like, is this forever? Do we do this weekly or monthly forever? Like, obviously we're married forever, but do we have to do therapy
That's
forever?
a good question.
The answer is no, you don't have to do therapy forever. Yes, you can graduate. So I've had clients we've worked on whatever issue that they came in with, and we've worked on it, we've talked about it, and they've gotten to a place where they no longer feel distressed and they feel like they have a handle on what's going on in their lives. And so then we talk about closing. It's called closing, or it depends on what kind of program you're in. It could be graduating, but closing. And then we talk about, okay, so you kind of go back over like, so what have you learned? Like where did you start? Where are you now? And what are the things you feel like you need in order to not go back to whatever place you were, right? And so it doesn't have to be forever, right? You don't, there's a certain type of therapy called analysis where people literally go forever, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't, there's therapies that last for like a month or something. Like, so there's different type of therapies and there's different type of therapists that work on issues from different perspectives. And so because you can like find a therapist that might be there's a type of therapy called solution-based therapy, right? So it's all about finding solutions to whatever issues you're bringing in. So those are shorter term therapies. So you won't be in it for years and years and years, right? It's really deciding what issue or problem you're going to bring up and figuring out ways to hit it.
Okay. That's and okay, so if I feel like I'm ready to be done with therapy, but maybe the therapist feels like, actually, I think you need a little bit more, is or vice versa. Maybe you feel like I'm done, and then I'm like, wait, I think I need more. Like, is that is a conversation between the two? Because most of the time, I would think it's not unison. Like, oh, we're done, great, we've done great, or is it the same at the same time?
Um, no, I've had both. I've had clients who felt like they were done, and I felt like they had more to do. And so it literally is, it's a conversation because the client is in control of the therapy. So once they're done, they're done. Like if they say they're done, they're done. But at the same time, I would let them know that, it's my clinical recommendation that you continue working on this, right? And it doesn't have to be with me. If you feel like we've gotten as far as we can go together, then that's what it is. And there has been some times where a client has been like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, you are. Because I can tell, like, if they come in and the sessions are them talking about the weather, talking about, and this is after we've worked through some heavy stuff. So this isn't them to avoid stuff and talking about, well, and then I'm thinking about going to Spain. Da, da, da. I'll let them know, like, now you're using me as a crutch, right? You're ready to be released, but there's fear there. So then we'll explore that fear and see, like, what do we need for you to feel confident enough to go off on your own?
I guess this is the last question that we always ask everybody is
Okay.
the one
Yes.
jewel.
Yes.
The one jewel. So go ahead, babe.
Okay, so if there was one thing that you could share about therapy for family or marriages or individuals, like what would you tell them? What would you share?
What would I share? I would share, and this is like when looking for a therapist, make sure you're asking your therapist questions. Like the very first session, don't let it go by with them just asking you questions. You want to find out who this person is, what their qualifications are, right? And even one of the best questions to ask after, like, maybe you're talking to them is, have you ever worked with somebody who has gone through what I've gone through? Are these experiences new to you, or are you familiar with, because you really want to know if this person is going back to their textbooks to see how to figure this out, or they already have some kind of understanding on how to work with you.
Right. That's a good one. Oh, wow. Okay. And I know we were supposed to, I always do this. I know we're supposed to end, but I always remember what you said in the beginning, and then it comes back to me late. How should people seek therapists that are similar to them, would you say? Like you said, why would I see a therapist who isn't married? Right? Because if that's how can you talk to me about being married or having a wife and you listening to this situation if you've never actually been in it?
Yeah.
Or is that something that they should do when they're seeking out a therapist?
Yes and no. And this is from personal experience. I've been to Black female therapists who I did not click with. The relationship did not work. And I'm like, oh, you're Black, you know what I'm going through. No, right? And so I think it is there are benefits to talking to somebody who has your experience. Like if they're a parent, if they're married, there are certain benefits because they do have a type of understanding. But at the same time, I've spoken to a therapist who was a male, who wasn't married, didn't have any kids, and he was great. It was a better fit than the person who was almost similar to me. And so it really is about having those conversations to see, like, one is knowing what you need. Sometimes you have no idea what you need in a therapist, right? Especially if you've never been, but you know how you like being talked to, right? You know how you like being supported, a little bit maybe what motivates you and what doesn't. And so going in there with that knowledge can help you navigate whether or not this person is a good fit for you.
Wow. It's so good. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for joining us. Anything you want to say, babe?
No. This is all me. This is me.
No, you
Yes.
you're the baby brother. This is wonderful. So thank you. Feel free to reach out to us. As always, I'm like, I cannot wait to hear from people and tell us what you think. Any questions you want to ask Michael, do you want to share your information? Can people reach out to you?
Yes, people will reach out to me. They can email me at Michal, Michal.j.Terrell, Terrell, @gmail.com.
All right. And then you can always reach us, DM us on Instagram or TikTok, First Comes Love TCM.
You can call the voicemail and leave a voicemail message at 412 Love Pod. That is 412-5683-763.
Good job. Or email us, let's talk at firstcomeslove, then comes marriage.com.
See you next Friday.